Hi there. I'm going to do a review for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This movie came out in 1977, roughly the same time period as Star Wars. And it was directed by Steven Spielberg and basically stars Richard Dreyfuss. It had a few other notable characters in it, but nothing, I don't think any of them are particularly well known anymore. In terms of actors, just Richard Dreyfuss was the big name. And yeah, this film, yeah, also, well, I guess it's Terry Garr, but no, since nobody actually knows who she is, she plays the wife in the movie. Richard plays Roy Neary. More or less, what this film is about is Close Encounter. Basically, it starts out with the fact that apparently, aliens visit us from time to time, and they snatch up our people, but they're benevolent, so that's a good thing. Actually, it's not, but whatever. The whole point of the movie is that Richard is that they've apparently had some close encounters. They've got three different kinds of close encounters, and they've had all three of them. Nonetheless, the movie basically zooms in on the fact that Roy Neary the whole town is having power outages because UFOs or alien craft are hovering around this town area. I think it's Ohio, and basically it's causing power outages. And the reason why this is important is because Roy Neary's got to go out and deal with the power outage because he's an electrician. And the reality is that he ends up with a scenario where he has a close encounter. A UFO hovers over his truck, and it gives him a sunburn. The whole movie's premise, though, is kind of, I'm not sure. Some parts of this movie are kind of, ironically, a little awkward to watch sometimes because there's a scene involving a child, and it's basically child abduction. But because these are benevolent aliens, you're not supposed to think about it too hard. When in reality, normally you would be a little bit concerned about this scene. Indeed, aliens show up and take a child. And of course, the child's so happy about it that it's not a big deal, of course. Of course, the mother thinks it's a slightly big deal. Very big deal. But what happens is that, yeah, they all are, these people after these events are drawn in. They all have a sensation of knowing something that they're not supposed to necessarily know. Oh yeah, the funny thing is about this movie is right after the UFOs do these things. Apparently, the police officers notice these unidentified flying objects, leads on a kind of an amusing cop chase sequence where you got all these things flying along and the cops are coming after them, and of course they're not gonna ever catch up. But it does produce an amusing scene. Plus, there's a whole bunch of people like apparently sitting around viewing these UFOs. Not exactly sure how they discovered this was happening or how the heck they got there, but whatever, it happened. Nonetheless, no, the people that were affected by the UFOs end up having situations where they're now seeing a vision of a location, and this involves a lot of really oddball sequences of Roy replicating the scene, and of course he looks like he's going nuts. Well, technically he is kind of going nuts. Normally you would consider this going nuts because he keeps everything he looks at, he's seen the form and the shape. He's like, do you know what this looks like? Why does this look familiar? And they're like looking at it like, Dad, you're shaping the potato. You've just put your hands all over the potato. We are in serious shape here, Dad, because normally you'd give us crap for doing that, and you are just meddling with the potato. It's mashed potato, so it's all good. But nonetheless, yeah, they have scenes, wonderful scenes of things happening. And of course, Roy has a little problem with his company because he apparently gets fired for some reason. Not entirely clear what he got fired for. I think it's got something to do with the fact he didn't call back in to say that he had not done the job or something. But nonetheless, it's an alright movie. It's fairly good. I don't know what to say of it. It's one of those classic 1970s sci-fi movies that they made. This one, because it was Steven Spielberg, it was made in such a way to be this recognizable film that everybody just enjoys. But it's got a lot of, actually, one could argue it's got a lot of questionable sequences. because it does contain child abduction, and it's kind of weird when things start to happen. Like Roy Neary, he takes off on his family realizes he's going berserk, and so they take off, and then he's still trying to replicate this shape he keeps seeing, and of course. The U.S. government is members of the U.S. government are realizing that there's going to be a location because they are gradually nearing in. There's been UFO phenomenon happen all over the world, and they're kind of pinpointing it down to a location in western Wyoming or something like that. Basically, that there's going to be something happening on a certain night. They've got a tune. Supposedly, there's a tune they're playing, and they can't figure out where it's coming from. Basically, yeah, it is a tune. It's supposed to be like a welcoming, I guess. I'm not too sure. But nonetheless, Roy has got some severe health issues to document. He keeps on getting bigger and more elaborate with the shape. And eventually he sees it on the television, Devil's Tower, out in the Black Forest Range. It's hilarious, actually. It's hilarious where this happens. Nonetheless, he goes on a fairly spectacular drive to get there, and of course, all this happens while a lot of things are happening in this movie. Basically, the joke is that like there's been numerous people have had close encounters with aliens, and of course they bring up Bigfoot, and it produces a rather awkward scene. I don't know. This movie is made in typical 1970s fashion, so saying that what should be technically a slightly scary sequence and an awkward sequence comes off as a little bit of a comical sequence. I mean, normally in a movie that's not like this, you would see a child abduction as a bad thing, but in this movie, it's considered a good thing. I'm not really sure how Spielberg pulled that off. Actually, well, it's not actually a good thing. The child is just happy to see these aliens, and then it happens, but again, it doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't really mean anything. It's kind of an amusing movie. The movie kind of doesn't really know what to do with its plot points. Basically, what they find out is yes, indeed, the aliens are going to have a hello sequence with the members of the government who are doing this elaborate little communication three-way. They're playing these tunes. They're playing these songs. It produces a rather interesting sequence, I guess you could say. Not too bad. It's not. I mean, it's okay for what it is. I don't know. I don't mind. Actually, another thing to mention is there's actually 3 cuts of this film. There's the original theatrical cut. There's an extended cut, and there's like a director's cut. Honestly, I think that the second cut's supposed to be the better one because it contains a little bit more elaborate sequencing. And then there's a director's cut that contains a bunch of other shit. And that's kind of ironic. Or a bunch of other stuff, and it's rather interesting how this happens. Yeah, I don't know. It's not too bad. It does have its question marks behind it. Like, for example, at the end of the movie, you find out that people who have been abducted are coming back to the Earth. And I'm not entirely sure why this is being shown off as an interesting sequence, because these people have been abducted for like, 50 years in some cases, and now they're coming back. And and they all have that spaced out expression on their face. So I'm not sure if it's supposed to imply this is a good thing or a bad thing. And they're taking a whole host of new people with them, and I'm not sure why this is considered a good thing, because why would Rory going off with some aliens be a particularly good thing? He's got a whole family supposed to be taken care of, and instead he's going off on his own. He's going to take off on his family. In some cases, this movie is like, in terms of science fiction purity, it's pretty good, but in terms of like the fact that you got a father that's actually going to become an absentee father, I don't know if I like it for that. I find that a questionable sequence, that Rory is actually taking off on his family for no apparent reason. Why does he have to go to the aliens? I don't actually know. I don't have a clue as to why he's taking off. They have a whole bunch of them that are going up with the aliens. I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's this is normal. But no, it's I don't know. It came off the same era as Star Wars did, and it's got kind of the same space opera cheerfulness as Star Wars, sort of. It's got some comedy. However, in the end, I'm not sure how well it works as an alien visitation movie. It's got some awkward sequencing. I don't sure how well it works, but nonetheless, it's considered an old classic. I have particular different opinions about it. I like the sci-fi sequences. I like the fantasy aspect. I like the notion of extraterrestrial visitation. However, I do not like that Rory takes off from his family. I'm really not digging that part of the movie. It's rather bad finishing off that he leaves. I'm like, well, why did he leave? But whatever, it happens. That's the way they wrote the script. Yeah, I guess it's up to you whether or not what you think of it. But there's that.